Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Travel Show, where every fourth Tuesday we get to chat with travel writer Debbie Stone. She literally travels the world. She crosses the country. She's been all over. She's been everywhere, man, I'm telling you. But we do like to call her the Fire Monkey. She got that nickname from her trip to Bhutan many years ago. And it's kind of stuck every time when she came on the show that day, and it's never left us. But today she's going to be talking about ice instead of fire. So I'm going to be very interested to see how the Fire Monkey did in the land of ice. She went to Greenland with Albatros Expeditions. Now, Albatross is one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs, Peter Green, the guitarist. And so I'm just loving this whole thing about birds and ice and whales and really getting into the culture of this area that is starting to open up a little bit, but is still very remote. And definitely, if you're going, this is an epic bucket list adventure, and it was for Debbie. Her story is up on blendradioandtv.com. You can see it there, but I also have a link in the show notes for you, so you can go right there. So welcome back, Fire Monkey. How are you?
I am doing fine. I'm back from as you said, the land of the ice.
I know. Isn't that wild? So
yeah.
You didn't melt. You're here. So we know you're not a witch. Just kidding. I know
right.
you're not.
Good thing. Good thing. Although my kids might sometimes think I am, but
right. We aren't going to go there. We're not going there. But I'm going to find, I love that, like I said, albatross is like my favorite song. And I actually think the albatross bird is pretty incredible. So that you went on Albatros Expeditions, my little ears picked up immediately. And I'm like, she went on an albatross. So, this seems like an amazing venture in that you went with the right company that seems to be very focused on the activities and education. From your article, I got that they're very centered on leaving a light footprint. That when we look at cruises, because sometimes cruise ships can be basically a floating city, and we need to look at when we're going to places like Greenland, what are we doing there when you're looking at climate change happening when you're going there, right? So being on the right kind of vessel makes sense. And it seems like this was kind of a smaller ship, even though it had 2 restaurants.
Exactly. I think the ship can hold I think it's maybe upwards of 180, I want to say. But when we were there, we only had, I think, about 164 on the ship. But it's a nice size expedition ship. Has all the bells and whistles. There was even a little bit of a gym. There's a little spa. There's, as I said, 2 restaurants. It's a great, wonderful, beautiful observation area upstairs on the top deck, and then there's, a wonderful, kind of lecture meeting area. And you're right, they are focused on education, they're focused on nature, they're focused on being good ambassadors, and they have a reputation for being their ships are built for fuel efficiency, so they like to, reduce their carbon footprint. That's their goal, and minimize their impact environmentally on wherever they go. And they do specialize in the polar expedition cruise arena. They are pioneering polar expedition cruise operators. And so I thought, all those things are very important, and they put top priority on safety, which is another thing that, of course, is very important for passengers and future would-be passengers to know, So I thought that they had, a great staff and crew and, expedition staff that was very knowledgeable, very helpful, wore different hats in terms of giving talks, leading walks and history walks and leading hikes, which were wonderful. So, yeah, it was a wonderful combination. Then, of course, the food, which was excellent and plenty of.
Well, we're not going to complain about that because it seems like you had a lot of that, but you actually got off, obviously. So
yes.
You went on let's go to Greenland, because I think a lot of us see, it's up there on the globe, right? And, I think all of us need to possess a globe, an actual globe, and twirl it around. There's something
Yes.
about getting that idea of it, and especially when you go to a place like Greenland. I mean, this is a remote area, and it is I didn't remember this from geography class until I read your article, like the largest island, really, that is not a continent in this country, in the
Yeah,
world, excuse me, in the world.
it is. And
So
people sometimes don't even think about that or even, kind of remember the fact that, yeah, it is, and it's huge. And, people sometimes forget about Greenland because there's been a lot of attention paid to Iceland in the past number of years, which became a very huge tourist destination. And, people are very familiar with Iceland, but a lot of people are not really familiar with Greenland. They just think of it as kind of being out there. And yes, it is out there, but it is this huge island, and much of it, 80% of it, is basically covered in ice. And
wow.
but that's, people go to see, the Arctic. They go to want to be above the Arctic Circle, and much of Greenland is above the Arctic Circle. There is a portion of it that is not, that is below the Arctic Circle. But most people want to go and they want to see that. They're excited to see ice fjords. They're excited to see glaciers. They want to see the icebergs, and that's, they want to, and they also want to see the cultural component of Greenland, which is to go into the settlements and the villages and the towns, and to see how the people live and what do they eat, and all that kind of thing.
I heard you ate reindeer.
I did. I tasted a tiny bit of it. I'm not really a meat eater, but I
Yeah.
really wanted to. I really wanted to try some of the things because I felt like it was an interesting way to understand a
Hmm.
culture, because food is so tied into cultural mores. And yeah, I mean, they eat. Many of the people up there, a good percentage, a lot of them are subsistence. That's their lifestyle in some of these very small villages. And so, yes, they eat what they can find and basically kill, whether it's reindeer, whether it's cod, whether it's muskox, and they use it for food. And so there's muskox soup, there's reindeer meat, they dry the cod, so it was very interesting. And then you'll see them drying their fish and also parts of the animals that are drying for them to use. And so yes, it is a different way of life, and to understand that this has been a traditional way of life since the time,
Well,
that's
and
the
so
way it
the
is.
tribal community is the Inuits, right? Which is really they're from Asia area, and so when you think about what they're eating, I mean, whale is also
Yes,
part of it, right?
yes,
So
absolutely.
what and we've actually interviewed a lady who was way up there on an island that is actually one of the first islands to go bye-bye because of climate change in Alaska. And so the Inuits are there, and she lived with them back in the 70s. Pretty much almost like in an igloo, what she lived in. Like not an igloo, but like it was just, she was out in the boonies because of what
Hmm.
her husband did. And, you got to think back in the 70s, we don't have what we have now, right? And I don't know if it makes a difference now that I think about it
Yes.
when you're in that remote of an area. However, when we lived in Africa, we had solar, we had satellite, we had things that, um, in a way we were ahead of time in a weird way, yet behind. I don't know how to explain that. We use things that are only now coming into the Western world or part of the norm in the bush.
Hmm.
So it's kind of
Hmm.
an interesting, weird, different thing. But being out in those remote areas, I mean, so they're eating fish, they're eating whale. I mean, cod, you had to eat the cod, right? I know you like fish. So,
Yeah, yeah, and they
you have
dry the cod
that,
a lot, so that's very
right?
important to them, And whale
Yeah.
blubber is very important, and these are, this is sources of protein for them, I mean, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that is,
But what about
very very important.
vegetables? Is there
They
any
eat
kind of
the
greenery?
Yeah, they do. I mean, what they can grow, particularly in the summer, which is a short season, but you can grow vegetables, and you can definitely buy vegetables in the store. There are going to be everything is that isn't grown or can be gotten there is, of course, being, shipped in or flown in, which then, of
Wow,
course,
it's expensive.
accelerates the price,
Mm-hmm.
So you can get, you can definitely get sticker shock when you go through grocery stores, which we did, and also there are times when there aren't, fresh fruits or vegetables available due to the time of the year, or they're not able to get them in, or whatever it is, or due to
Wow, I can imagine. You're not going to let your lettuce go bad in the fridge drawer. You know what I mean? That, like, if
Yeah.
you bought lettuce, then you're eating the lettuce. That's something
Yeah, you eat
special.
what you buy, or
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have things that you grow, then you're gonna, can them or
Yeah.
freeze whatever is for the rest of the year if you can, if they're the kinds of produce that can be frozen or canned. But but I mean, having that protein is probably, crucial. It's crucial
Mm-hmm.
to them, So
Right. I
yeah,
mean, and it keeps you going in such cold, but like, so when you were there, there's daylight. So I know Alaska fluctuates, right? And so, all of these areas, when you're in the poles, you start lose, it's like the 6 months on, 6 months off. So tell us a bit about that. So when you were there, was it summer, and was it
yes,
like people could actually grow something in the backyard? Because I saw one
yeah,
of your photos had
yes,
flowers. So I was
yes,
like, ooh,
yes,
proof there's flowers and ice in the same place.
yep. Yep, they were, yes, things were growing because it was summer. I mean, I was there in the second week in August, so to speak. So it was still summer, although fall starts to come quickly towards the latter part of August. But they celebrate the summer solstice in June, and that's a big thing to be happy about, and they're delighted when the sun starts coming out again, because you're living in
Mm-hmm.
relative darkness. And when I lived in Alaska, I lived in Fairbanks for a number of years. We experienced some of that too.
Oh, wow.
It started getting kind of light at 10 o'clock in the morning, but the light was never like really bright light. And then around 3, it was like definitely you're getting into dusk and it's getting dark. And then in the summer, it's crazy because you're out at midnight and you have all this energy and you're, doing everything possible, and the plants are growing huge, and so it's a very interesting, what it does to your biorhythms,
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, right where we are right now, we're in the Asheville area, and right now we're just outside the city, but before we were right in the forest, and we were there in winter, and then summer, right? So it was this whole different thing going on, and it was like being in a rainforest. Yet I knew that the rainforest had snow when we were there before, so it was this whole other. I mean, we didn't get the big snow when we were there. Trust me. We did that in Wisconsin. We saved that for the Midwest. You guys do it well up there. Thank you very much. And Debbie knows from Chicago, like, hello, you win on the snow. But it is just this, it's a very interesting thing, because I know that Alaska also has those like a rainforest, and it's hard to believe when you think about all the snow, and then this fog comes in here where we are, and we keep watch every morning. I'm like up just to watch what is the Smoky Mountains. And I know you've hiked through, here on the Appalachian Trail and been to Asheville too, that it just blows my mind how it changes with the seasons. And I don't know, it's really fascinating to me. I'm kind of like in this mode right now of that. And when I was reading about Greenland, I'm going, God, it's got to be really cool to witness that and then see the ice, because the ice, doesn't that also kind of create a fog as well, like a kind of a smoky
It can,
atmosphere?
definitely. It definitely can. Yeah, the fog can hang in there. You know what I mean? Most definitely. Most definitely.
Well,
So, yeah.
because you're living in Santa Fe right now, so you know where I'm coming from. This whole
Yeah.
weird, like, this is all, there's moisture just in the air in the morning. I was used to that when we lived in Kenya on the equator, like there'd always be moisture, right?
Right.
Well, unless you're in certain areas and there's a drought, but you know what I mean? There's that moisture that would come, and the desert, like a lot of
Yeah.
times you could go for months without any kind of moisture.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. It can be very dry, very, very dry, so, but I think, it's a world of ice, and I think people are fascinated with the different shapes and
Mm-hmm.
sizes and, the colors, and it's fascinating. And when you see your first iceberg, when you head to the Arctic or the Antarctic, wherever it is, you get excited and you're just like, wow. And then you see more, and then you see bigger ones, and then you see ginormous ones, and then you see, different kinds, and you see the little tiny little bergy bits, and then you see these huge tabular ones that look like big sheet cakes, and then there's ones that have like almost arches, and you look like you can tunnel through them. And so it's fascinating to me, all the different shapes and sizes that ice can create, and the glaciers are phenomenal too. But the glaciers, it's very, very, very apparent that there is things happening in terms of climate there, because you can see the recession of the glaciers. You can see where they started, and we were, told all about that. And you can see how much of that has gone away, and now where is the glacier, and how quick or how rapid this is going to recede even more, So it is a very interesting, up close, personal experience with what's going on.
How did it feel going from New Zealand? Because, before the pandemic, you went to New Zealand and you saw glaciers there and kind of had that kind of journey in a different, a little, I mean, kind of, it's connected. It is.
Very much so. Very much so. We were, very much, it was clear when we would take hikes to glaciers, and, our guide would say, this is the point, and we'd stop and we'd see this was where the glacier had been. This is where it had been, and then we would hike much, much further and go, oh, there's the glacier now. And so that was quite a distance that we hiked to get to where the glacier is today, so to speak. So yes, a lot of similarities, and I think all over the world, in various places where there has been glaciers or are glaciers or glacier activity, that people can see the differences, and it's not just scientists and researchers, but these are, we're there, we're curious, we want to see, we want to learn, we want to know, and by being there and having this very, very visceral experience, it comes home very, very profoundly.
What's it like? So did you go out on one of the Zodiac boats? Did you get to go out?
And that was the method that they had, because many times they couldn't dock at a town, and so they would be, anchored out in the, close by, but, in the water, so you would have to have some form of transportation. So the Zodiac which is a very good form of transportation, which a lot of ships use, and the ships prepare you. They do a whole exercise and understanding how to get into a Zodiac. There's a proper way to do it, how to get out, how to behave in a Zodiac, what to do, what not to do, and it's quite hammered into you, which is important because it is all about safety. But yeah, those Zodiacs, they whip you to the dock, to wherever, to land, and you get off, and then you have various options and activities that you can choose from, whether it's walking hikes or walking tours or a hike, and the thing is everything is optional in terms of what you want to do when you get to land. So, you can just, start off and go on your own. You're given maps in terms of, you can take photos of the maps that they have hanging on the boards in the ship, and you learn all about the town and what you can do. Usually the night before, the day before, they will tell you and give you kind of a briefing and let you know what's going on, let you know what level the hike is, so that people understand this is how long it is, what's the terrain, et cetera, or, that there's a museum in this town or not, this, whatever it might be. If you are interested in this is when it's open. There's a church here. You can go into this church.
Yeah, when that church is cool.
Yeah, they had several churches. Many of the settlements or towns had churches, and the architecture is very beautiful. A lot of Danish, of course, similarities, and beautiful buildings, and the houses all colorful and very vibrant, which stand out against the environment. And they were so picturesque, especially if you're coming along in a ship and you get to a town and there's a big iceberg in front, but there's all these colorful houses behind, and you're like, wow, this is so has such a unique and special beauty.
South Africa had some of that in Cape Town area. I think you saw some of that on the coast. There's coastal communities, like even Oceanside, California has those little coastal houses, but the Pacific Northwest, I noticed that a lot, where people had these bright, colorful houses, especially if they were on the coastline and the northern part. Like, if you were out in Ilwaco, I know you went there,
Yeah,
in those
sure.
areas. Like, if you were out on, where you're really getting a
Yep.
lot of fog, people just were like, nope, we're going to be bright and colorful. You can see my house. I'm not going to be sunken in, here I am, and I loved it because it just kind of brought cheer, because it can get, I think you could probably get a little despondent if you don't have a lot of sunshine. And, I'm not good without some sunshine. I'm definitely a sunshine person, but I love the Pacific Northwest and the drama of it all. And, but when people do that with their houses, I'm like, yeah, that makes me happy. Thank you.
And
I need that.
they used to do it by what was happening. So, for example, red was like schools and education, and so everything, like buildings were red, or like blue was whatever, or yellow was whatever, and so like one was like a color for medical areas. So you would know just by color what the purpose of the use of that particular, what was going on in that building. So they did use color for certain reasons. And I know that was the same in several places in Scandinavia that we visited as well. And in Europe as well. But there was a certain reason for colors being painted, certain colors for, different houses and things.
So going to Greenland's kind of like did you kind of feel like a full circle moment of all your travels and all the continents and countries you've been to?
I think it was kind of a culmination of kind of like polar expeditions, because we've been to Antarctica, and we've been to Iceland before, and we lived in Alaska, and I've been up far north in Churchill, Manitoba for the polar bears, and so it was really, I had always wanted to go to Greenland. It just was one of those places I thought, this will be I wanted to go there. First of all, I wanted to go there soon before the ice melts.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely one of my purposes, but also because I just thought, for some reason, I think it's because maybe I saw National Geographic years ago on Greenland, but I've always wanted to go there. And I think also after having lived in Alaska, there is a lot of similarity. There's just definite. My husband and I, we were walking through little towns and settlements. We're like, oh my gosh, this is
Well,
so
kind of
much
reminds me
like
also
Alaska.
When you went to, you went on that cruise at the Norway and the Shetland Islands.
Oh yeah,
kind of reminds me of
the
that
fjords,
a little
the
bit.
Norway, the Norwegian fjords,
Yeah.
and these small towns and what they depend on economically, a lot of fishing.
It's amazing.
That's the big. It's fascinating to me. I love visiting places where the way of life is so very different to the way of life that I live, and culturally it's very, very different. But, you find people all over the world, and you find warm and friendly and welcoming people, which we did. The Greenlandic people were very welcoming, and I can't express that enough. They were extremely friendly, and so that was wonderful. And they welcomed you, and they wanted you to understand their culture or to try their food.
The tourism aspect of that. Are they ready? You mentioned that in your article, and again, everyone, the link is in the show notes. And also, I want to give a shout out to Albatros Expeditions. It's albatros-expeditions.com. But you talk about now, more people. I mean, if people are spending money to go to the moon and, get up in space and do whatever they're doing up there with whatever rich billionaire is taking another rocket up there, or whatever you want to call it, they're going to spend money to go to Greenland, right? Because
Right.
it's like you're saying, this is going to be, you're going to see something that no one's going to witness again. Like Nancy and I say, we saw Africa at a time that was already at a decline of wildlife, and we were really lucky, of what we saw in the mid 70s. We were very, very lucky.
Sure.
So I feel like that's that kind of experience, but even more drastic,
Right.
with what you've experienced, and you've done Africa and all that too. So it's, you're seeing something as it's changing. You go there a year later, it's already going to be changed. And so this is like an epic bucket list with a timestamp on, like, get your butt there now. So
Absolutely.
Are they prepared for that? And also having to stay, like, you can't overrun these smaller communities, because like it's a huge island, but what I was reading, like 56,000 people. So it's not even Like, I think when I first read it, I was like, oh, 56. I thought 560,000. So it's half the size of Tucson. Then I went, oh my God, it's
Right.
only 56,000 people on the
And
island,
can you
right?
believe
Because of
that?
all the ice.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's so you think about it and you think, well, yes, and they are built in the process of building a couple more airports for people to get into Greenland, and then they're but they want to do things the right way, I think, and so they are trying to look at how much infrastructure is needed to support tourism on a different level. They look at their neighboring Iceland, so to speak, and yes, there's Iceland dealt with an enormous crush of tourists that came after after became the it place at one point in time, and so things happen very quickly, and when that happens, often it can really create some issues, I think, for the country, for the locals, for whatever, if they don't have a good handle on how to deal with the tourism. So, right now the majority of people who go to Greenland go via a ship, whether it be a type of expedition ship like I was on, or whether it be a ship that maybe stops in one or two places in Greenland and then goes on to some other places, whether it's to Norway or whatever. But most of the people do arrive and do a ship. Either they arrive via a ship on a cruise ship, or they fly into Greenland and board a ship. There's probably a smaller percentage that fly into Greenland and then just take off on their own. The problem is that there's no road system in Greenland. As I mentioned, towns might have a few roads, but they dead end. You can't go from town to town by road to road. It's boats and flights.
Wow. Wow. Amazing, isn't it? And then what about dog sledding? Come on. Now you
that's a
met
big deal.
you met the Greenland
yes.
dogs. Like, I mean, who let the dogs out? Like, the Greenlanders did.
Well, and the thing is that every town there are sled dogs, and sled dogs have been very important to Greenlanders, Greenlandic individuals and people for years. And there is one type of sled dog in Greenland. It's called the Greenland dog, or Canis, as they say, Canis lupus familiaris. And it is one of the purest and most isolated dog breeds in the world, because it does not allow to mix that particular dog with other dog breeds.
Wow.
Like in Alaska, you have, huskies that have been mixed, or wood Malamutes that have been mixed, and they crossbreed. But the Greenland dog is one of the purest dog breeds in the world. And you are not, when you go to Greenland, they will emphasize to you, and there are signs everywhere in all the dog areas that you will be walking by, but even on the ship, they really, they did a whole lecture on it, but they also told us, please do not go up to pet a dog, don't interact with a dog. You can stand back a ways and take a photo if you wish, but please don't go.
It's like
near
going to the
dog.
border. You don't mess with the border dogs, like the police dogs, or you know what I mean?
And these are working animals for the most part. They are working animals, and
wow.
Their lead, quote unquote, lead dog, the alpha is the owner who has the dogs, and the dogs listen to that person, and they can be unpredictable with people, because they might see you as a threat, to the whole group of dogs, so. Definitely.
Yeah, you don't want to let the dogs out. You do not want to be the person who does that.
No.
Well, it's interesting too, because you talk about the alpha, and here's the person, the head person. But this land is your land, right? This land is free. And that's a whole other thing that is very hard. Like, to me, I'm always one of these people that people go, oh, rose-colored glasses, altruistic. I'm one of these people who wish we didn't have a passport, other than I like to see all the places I've been and have the stamps. But I really don't need that to know who, what, and where. But I would love to see a world without passports and borders. And I know that annoys a whole bunch of people. And I know that it's not happening right now, maybe in another life. But Greenland, like, no one is owning the land. So, like, what happens with the church? What happens if you build a house? Like, can people say, don't come in my yard? Like, how does that work? That's an interesting thing.
I think what it is you can own property. Do you understand? So you can own a house, but you don't own the land that it's on.
Yeah, like Mexico,
So
like if you're an
you
expat.
can
Yeah.
you can sell the house and you can buy the house, but it's very clear. Greenland is the people's country, so to speak, and it is that ownership doesn't. Land ownership doesn't exist there. So it's all common, and it's not owned by the government. It's not owned by the municipality. It's not owned by anyone. The parliament. It's not. It's just all people's land. But you can what you build on that land, you can own that structure.
That's going to be really hard for a lot of people's minds to wrap around. Like it is.
It's
a little bit
very different, but you know what? It's the way it is. I mean, it's just they set it up that way, So, and people, I should notice that the people somehow think it's pretty funny. A lot of people don't know, or maybe they've heard in their geography lessons or the books, but Greenland. Why is Greenland Greenland if it's not really green? And why is Iceland if not a lot of it is all ice? And there was, the story about, the fact that the settlers in Iceland wanted to keep people away because they loved it there, and they said, let's call it Iceland because then people won't come. And then Eric the Red, who was the person who came from Iceland, he was actually a murderer from Iceland who was exiled to Greenland. Yes, and he's responsible for giving this island the name because he wanted to get settlers to come to Greenland, and having it say Greenland or sound like Greenland. It sounds very inviting, doesn't it, versus Iceland?
Yeah, nice and lush. Come, it's like a forest, and you can grow things. But hello, welcome to Iceland, and I'm going to chop your head off. Nice, nice.
No, it was pretty. It's pretty kind of. It's just funny that the opposites are the way it is, But that's very interesting. But I mean, in some of the places we stopped at, the people, would have a little taste of Greenland for us. So they would show us some crafts. They would show us some dancing, folk dancing, which looked a lot of polkas almost, and
wow.
So it was a way to really kind of get a little bit more of an experience versus seeing it from just I'm kind of seeing it from an outside perspective. At least you had definitely some interaction with the Greenlandic people, and being able to go into their community centers and walk by where they live and just see how they lived and what they did and how things are changing, and what's going to happen. Who knows what will happen in the years to come, So it was, to me, it was a fascinating journey, and I feel very fortunate that I was able to do it now. Like I said, I had a sense of urgency to see it now.
Yeah, I think it is, a sense of urgency. And you did go to Disko Bay. We have to bring that up because that's important. Yes. That's just important. Yes. I mean, it's disco with a K, but you still went. I just feel like they should have like a disco ball, like when you get there.
hanging above the bay. That's right. Hanging above.
We need like Gloria Gaynor, and we need like the Bee Gees, and I'm just saying that should happen. That should happen. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So are you going to go to another icy place? Do you have any other icy places on your bucket list?
At the moment, no icy places at the moment. No.
What's next for the Fire Monkey? Where are you going next?
Well, I'm going to be in the country, going to Gettysburg, and because I haven't been there in many years. I was there as a child, and my husband has never been there, and I'd like to revisit it and spend some more time there. And so we're going to Gettysburg, and then also going in pursuit of the national park list. We are heading to West Virginia to New River Gorge National Park. I believe it's the newest one in the system, and we will be exploring that national park. And so that's up. And then we're going to go to upstate New York. We're going to go to Lake George and Lake Placid.
Nice.
And we're going to do some bunch of stuff in upstate New York, and that'll be nice. And farther down in the line, we're going to Samoa. And
she's not going to Iceland then. Nope, that's no Samoa. Ice country.
There is the national park.
National park there.
Samoa.
Yeah. America,
Samoa, Yep, and then February is a big trip, Patagonia. So we're going to go hiking down in Patagonia. So that'll be.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm very
Like
excited.
seriously?
I've been to Chile and I've been to Argentina, but we never really went to
Yeah,
Patagonia.
but Patagonia is like,
yes, it's
and then I even think
place
of the
to go.
company, and they have an amazing publishing house, and
Yes,
we've interviewed some of their
yes.
authors, but the company itself, I think if we're going to ever look at a brand that should be replicated would be Patagonia, the brand, and how they've donated so much land, taken their profits to save huge, huge tracts
Right,
of land. Huge.
right,
I know that they are not the country Patagonia or the place. They're a
right.
company, but every time I hear of Patagonia, I just go, I want to go because number one, there's bird life, and
Oh yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait for you to
But
go.
the hiking is supposedly
Yeah.
incredible, and the sights are incredible, and so yeah, I'm extremely excited about that trip. So that's definitely on the agenda. So a couple big trips, and
Well, New River Gorge is going to be amazing in
yes,
the fall. We did that
yes.
last year in the
Oh,
fall, just a little teeny bit of it. And
oh,
it was absolutely spectacular. We have friends there now, literally as we're recording this, and they did this hike under the bridge that like the cat.
I'm doing that. It's called the Bridge Walk. I'm doing it.
Yeah,
Yes.
they did it.
Yeah.
And she said like, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, but she
Yeah.
said it
Yeah.
was really, but you got to do it. She's like, you'll be really
Yes.
proud of yourself when you do it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not good at heights and neither is she, but she's like, I did it,
Yep.
and,
I'm excited. Yeah, very excited
yeah,
about
no,
it because
and it's such,
it has to be done,
well, what's interesting about that park is it's not just like the typical national park. It's kind of like Hot Springs in a way that it's part of a community and multiple communities and ghost towns and where we went was like Sandstone Falls, I think, where,
Yes.
we were
Yep.
beautiful, and you're going to hit it right at just a beautiful time of year when I think around the same time we did last year. So you're going to have an amazing time in upstate New York. It's going to be gorgeous at
Yep.
that time.
Yeah,
There's
it'll be
good
nice.
wine upstate New York,
Yes. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
Debbie, you're living the life, girl. We love it. And Fire Monkey's happy. She's doing good.
Trying to get to these places that I've, wanted to go to. Why waste time? Let's do it, So,
No, I love it.
Yep.
I love it. And
Yep.
I'm so glad you're going to New River Gorge because we're going to do as much as we can to cover that area because
Good.
people really don't quite get how and why it became a national park unit and part of the National Park Service. And there's many reasons why. And when you have communities connected, it's also part of protection for all. It's the
Right.
history and the communities being connected. And I know when you go, you're going to flip out a little bit. So in a good way.
I'm very excited.
Yep. Yeah. And there's people who don't think it should be a national park unit. And, I tend to disagree. Well, because they expect it, when there's a expectation of everything should be like Yosemite and be closed off and done this way. And that's
Right.
not how things are.
Right.
You know that, right? From the
Yeah,
different
of
parks
course.
you've been to. And there's reasons. And sometimes a national park unit will be there just because of one frog or something.
Right. Right.
And
right.
if you don't have the frog,
there are many different reasons why national parks have been created, or given that status, So I'm always interested to hear that story. What is the reason behind this park versus this park?
Yeah, there's always a reason. Like, they did that people got mad about the arches, in St. Louis. And I'm like, actually, the arches, that's a gateway. That's like a whole reason. There's a cultural and historical reason of that. And then if you also look at like Indiana, you went there, the Indiana Dunes. I've heard the same thing. And I'm not reading your article. Debbie's article on that is up on nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Indiana sand dunes and you'll find it. And I'm looking, you were there in the fall and you had like blue water, you had sand dunes, and you had fall colors all in one park.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it was
like,
gorgeous.
Come on, people, get past it.
That was in late September, and it was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
here, the thing is, the more land we can protect, the better we are all. For
Yeah.
humans and plants and animals, we're all going to be better off. So just
Of
saying,
course.
just did a plug there, but
Just
I have
saying.
to get on,
Just saying.
just saying, have to get on my soapbox once in a while there, Miss Fire Monkey. But again,
Good.
everyone, Debbie's article is up on the blendradioandtv.com. The link is in the show notes, no matter where you're listening, YouTube, Spotify, Google, all those places. And of course, you can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Debbie Stone, who we call Fire Monkey, Debbie Stone, I lose her emails sometimes because I have her under Fire Monkey or Debbie on my computer. But no, anyway, Debbie Stone is her name. And she is on our show every fourth Tuesday, and we always have a blast hearing about her latest adventures. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thanks so much. Next time.
Yoo-hoo.
Take care. Bye-bye.